Look at these earrings. Aren't they magnificent? And it's going to be a little hard to tell from this overhead shot, but they are kind of 3D, and this dangled wire wrapped bead, actually a pearl, hangs down from behind all this weaving at the top. It's got dimension to it. It's got texture. It's got movement. Just a wonderful design that I am raring to go. I'm so excited to show this wonderful earring. This could be a pendant as well. So when you're making these, think about if you would like to have a necklace to match this as well, because that could definitely work with that. I love the enlarged loop that is a connector, the weaving, not only layers of wires, but layers of depth. Let me try to get a little side shot so you can really see what this is doing. I'm trying to get this little side shot of this so you can see how it dangles and how the dangling bead, how this wire wrap bead nestles down in this little opening. It's not just a single flat layer. It's got dimension and layers to this. Isn't that wonderful? And that weave at the top. So let me quickly show you what you're going to need so that you can get started on these earrings today. Something that you're going to want to keep handy at all times is a bench block and a nylon hammer. You're going to have all your normal tools, some cutters, chain nose, maybe some bail pliers or your round nose that you like the most. I also have these small round nose that I'm going to use, and you can have a ring mandrel or something like a large marker or something that we can make this form around. The wire that we're going to be using today, 18 gauge of dead soft for our main structure of these earrings, and I believe I'm using 26 gauge for these pearls. Pearls are notorious for small holes, so I think I used this. See, I don't quite know because I just grabbed some scrap out of my scrap bin. I'm pretty sure it's 26 gauge. I would like to use 24 if I could, but whatever you choose to drop down here in this open area, I would say just use the thickest gauge that you can, that your bead will accommodate. For one earring, we're using roughly about a foot of this 18 gauge wire. So I'm going to pull this out, and then I'm going to run a polishing cloth over it. It's got little dinky kinks in it too. So by doing this, and I've kind of arc it back and forth. I went that way, and then I push it the other way. It's pulling out all those stupid little kinks that happen to be in this wire, and removing that tarnish. You won't have so much on your fingers and whatnot. I'm just going to do a rough cut of this 12 inches. It doesn't have to be exact because not a lot, but some will be trimmed based on how big you want to make your loops or how many wraps you want to put in them. But 12 inches is a really good place to start to get going on these earrings. So the first thing we start with is this connector loop at the top. And the way I did it was I just came to the end, an inch or two in, and I kind of pressed my fingernail into the wire, pressed over with my other finger, and overlapped it like that. And I got this really kind of organic teardrop connector. I really liked how the shapes echo each other. We have the teardrop connector. We have the teardrop shape of the whole earring itself. And also, I found these pearls, freshwater pearls in my stash that just kind of had a teardrop shape to them already. So really like this for this project. Okay, you heard me mention that the bench block and the nylon hammer is going to stay close. And it really needs to stay close because at each one of these crossovers, each one of these bends, this is when I like to do a lock it in place kind of maneuver. So that should be good to go. And we're going to do that after every little wrap to really lock it in. So this is at the point where you're going to take your reed mandrel, or maybe large wrap and tap pliers, or your highlighter, or whatever you're going to use to make your form. I believe, because I made these earrings so many times, and I tried out different sizes on the ring mandrel. I think I settled on the size 7 for this outer ring. Now, this doesn't need to be gotta be super tight, gotta be a perfect circle, because remember, we're going for that teardrop shape anyway. So I'm just bringing it around. It's going to be on top of these wraps, and you should have something that's looking just about like this right now. Sorry about that. Oh, look who's back. And we're just going to gently tap it out a little bit. It's flattening it, it's positioning it, it's locking it in. Now, if you like this more rounded shape, just leave as is and try to make your shape match. I preferably really enjoy the teardrop shape, so I might squeeze just a little bit. Oh, shoot, not like that. I might squeeze just a little bit around the sides here. Try to work into this teardrop shape. All right, we're going to hold real firmly on our form, and this long tail is going to come behind our connecting loop, kind of making a little neck scarf. Wrapping around. And you'll have something like that. And your ends should be coming out on either side like this. One thing, you can either snip this tail off now, you could do another wrap and snip it off then. It's really up to you and how it's working for you. I'm just going to tighten this just ever so slightly to lock it in. If you notice in our originals, there's these little gaps in between these layers, these 3-dimensional layers of wraps. Ugh, I just love that. So what we're going to do is redirect this wire a little bit so that it's starting to make that gap. Like that. And then you'll take your form, whatever that might be, and we're going for something smaller. It needs to be smaller. So before I head it down to the 7, I think I'll bring it up to this 5. Hopefully this is not too in your face. It's pretty close to the camera, isn't it? But I really want you to see what I'm doing. It's a little hard to maneuver this ring mandrel underneath the camera. And it's the same movement, bringing around the mandrel till it's coming out on this left side. And should have something going like this. You can either leave it like that, or this is the time that you make any adjustments before we lock anything in with the bench block and the hammer and all that. I just feel like this needs to come up a little bit. And I think I would like a little more gap between this layer and that back layer, our very first layer. And you can take just your chain nose pliers and turn it in ever so slightly, so gently. And especially with this 18 gauge, you're not going to bend the wire, you're not going to mess it up. Because the wire's already going in that circle shape, it's going to remember that, and it's just going to continue to wrap in a circle shape. And I kind of like that gap that it's got going on. I want this wire to start going up in this direction, so I'm going to hold here with my thumb and my index, and ever so slightly, right there at the top, redirect it so it's going in the direction that we want to, but it's not messing up our teardrop shape. Back with the bench block and our nylon hammer. I know this seems like, oh, no, I don't want to mess it up. But what we're doing is locking in this weave, this pipa knot here at the top. And ever so slightly of tapping. I'm not whacking away on it. I'm just kind of tapping it down a little bit. And it's the same thing. I am supporting back here with my index and gently holding with my thumb as I press this around and guide it underneath that first wrap that we did. And I've transitioned over to my left hand. Same fingers, holding with index and my thumb. And wrapping around for the next layer. And I'm not making it super tight. I kind of like those gaps and the airiness where you can really see the texture in there and the wraps. I think I've got a nice gap going here already. Matching gaps. Matching gaps? Is that something? I'm not sure. But anyway, so back with whatever you can use to make our third and final wrap here. Let me see if I can get it so you can see it. I was going to do that. I think I want to tap it down just a little bit first. Very, very gentle taps. Okay, I feel more comfortable with that. Back with our mandrel. And I did a 7 for the first wrap. I was about a 5 for the second one. And I'll come down here to this third one. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we can adjust it with our chain nose pliers if needs be. See how it's kind of round? I don't particularly want that. I want that teardrop shape. So I'm going to go back with my chain nose pliers. And the wire's going to remember it wants to go in a circle since we've already made it go in that direction. And just bring it in. But I don't want the wire going that way, so I'm going to come right here where I want it to bend and hold at the place I want to maintain the shape and redirect that wire so that it goes to the back. Another way you could adjust it if you want is you can hold where you don't, you want to maintain the shape, and then you can use your hands to redirect it if you need to. I want a little more gap here. It's not quite enough. So what I'll do is just take my pliers and pinch it as well. All the while looking at how things are lining up and making adjustments as we go. One of the main things I could say is make tiny movements and go slow so you get it exactly where you want it. And really in no time, you'll have just an amazing pair of earrings, seriously. I'm going to do one more tap out, and I'm only hammering right here in this area. I'm not going out here where we have our nice little 3-dimension and 3 layers of wraps. Right here where it weaves. And while I'm thinking about it, because I forget about it, I'm going to cut off this excess here. Let me straighten up this connector loop. One more final wrap into the back. And we're going to bring it right down to the center here. Making any little adjustments you feel. I mean, this is kind of an organic wrap. Each one is slightly going to be different. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. They're going to be different, and that's okay. That's what wire wrap jewelry is about. The uniqueness, the textures, the shapes. Love it. So I have some excess here. Let me show you this wonderful thing that we're going to do. I'm going to trim off. Now, every time I do this, I kind of eyeball it because each one is a little different. I think to be safe, I'm going to leave myself about maybe a centimeter from this wire here. Maybe that's like a centimeter. Let's see what it is. A little bit more than a centimeter. And I'll probably have to trim it, but let me show you what we're doing. This little excess, you probably already know what it's going to do. I was going to start redirecting it straight so that I can come back with some chain nose ply. No, I think I'm going to start directing it from the front already. I'm holding these wraps and I'm sending it to the back. See, you already knew what it was going to do. I know you did. Now, bring it up a little bit. We're going to make kind of a little hook. Try to get it as dead center as possible. And you already know what's happening here. We are going to make the little hook, the little place where we're going to attach whatever wire wrapped bead you would like to put in. So we're just going to leave it like a little hook right in there. Okay, leave that. Grab whatever wire you need to do for your attached bead. Maybe, now this is something that you're going to have to figure out depending on how big your bead is, but I think this is, let's see, it is 3 inches. Let's see. Oh, 3.5. It doesn't even need to be that long, but. And something that I always do, you always see me, it's kind of just my go-to to make a head pin. And that's what we're doing here, is that I take some chain nose pliers, I just grab the end, and I turn it back on itself. And then just pinch it together. I don't know why, but I just love this simple head pin. I don't know what it is about it, but it adds such a little, boop. Let me show you when it looks like when you get the pearl or your bead on it. I didn't ream this. I hope it fits. Oh, whew, good. It just has this little boop right at the bottom. It's so cute. Love that. I'm going to grab some round nose pliers or whatever you feel comfortable with making this wrap. Bringing it right down snug against the bead. Press back to yourself. Turn your pliers about 45 degrees so it's into this neck like that. Make sure this is straight first. Press over the top of your pliers, back down around, and turn your pliers. We get it like nice and straight going together, lined up. And then bring it around, hugging around those round nose pliers. I'm just straightening all this out a little bit. Coming in with some chain nose pliers, and I'm going to hold this loop, lock this loop in. And I love this too. I don't think about it. I just take this wire and I just kind of do some bird nest wraps. I don't even really think about it. Just let the wire flow. And that's going to become our front to this bead. Obviously, I didn't need that other 1.5 inches now, did I? Just trim off this excess. It all gets recycled anyway. I am going to be doing some melting down of wire scraps and making some pendants and things once the weather warms up and I can go outside. Just going to straighten out this loop. Come on. Is that cute or what? And we take our earring that we've been making. We're going to find the front. Just slide that little bead on there. Ooh, it's so cute. And then take some chain nose pliers and direct the end of that wire up into these wraps. That's where we're going to tuck it away so it doesn't snag. You could go an extra step of filing that end, but it's tucked away. So do we need to do that? I don't know. Now we test to see, it's a little hard to show you because I have to hold it horizontal, but what I'm doing is it hanging down the center of this earring? It needs to come over to the right. Oh.
Ouch!
Needs to come over just the slightest bit. And I'm going to tighten this up. Tighten that up a little bit. Tuck that up in there just a little more. I'm going so slow and so carefully. I want to press that wrap down just a little bit, so it's not jutting out so far to the front. That is so cute. I want to show you what it looks like when it's dangling from a side view. Hold on just a second. If you want to make ear wires for these great earrings, grab your 20 gauge wire. I did not mention that in the beginning because some of you just want to know how to make these earrings and you already know how to make ear wires. But I got to let you know, I kind of just cut anywhere from just under to about 2 inches, something like that. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, they're going to match because I simply take that piece that I just cut, flush cut the end of the wire, and then use it to match and make my cut of the next one. Okay, so at this point, I want to explain why I don't do my ear wires both at the same time. I just don't like to. I don't find that it works. Even though using my bail pliers, even though the barrel is the same width, whole length of it, it doesn't work for me. I don't know what it is. So that's why we get to do what we want to do. You do what works for you. If you like doing both at the same time, then great. If you don't, this works too. I'm just using bail pliers right on the end of the wire, and I'm going to be wrapping around this first bail, which is 2 millimeters on my pliers, pressing near the bail so we get a good, nice, and intact all the way around. It comes around and meets the other side of the wire. Turning the pliers and turning the wire, placing it back in the pliers so we've got it like this. We're going to be using this 7 millimeter bail, and I've got it nice and level, if you see that. Let me adjust it just a little bit. And now we're going to be pressing against the 7 millimeter bail. I bring it right around just to touch that first loop, and I'm done. Is it faster to do? I'm sure it is faster to do them both at the same time. But when I have to stop and regrip and blah, 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 it didn't save me any time. So that is the joy of making jewelry or any craft. You do what works best for you. That's why I'm always encouraging you to discover how to hold it, how that works best for you, what tools work best for you. Because we all have different ways that we like to hold the wire, hold our tools, and it's just the way it is. So I don't like to tell you, yes, you must do it this way, because maybe it's not the best for you. I'm bringing back out our buddies that we've had this whole project using the nylon side of the hammer, tapping them out to flatten and strengthen. I'm going to put it on these ones that I've already made because I didn't have it. Hadn't made them yet, so this works out perfectly. One thing that I would do is before you place your bead on there, whatever it may, now maybe your bead can handle this, but I wouldn't do a pearl. I would put this whole thing into a tumbler, get it going for like a good hour to strengthen this whole unit and keep it nice and firm and locked in place. And of course, it's going to shine it. So what I did here was just open that little loop on our ear wire, getting the front here of our earring and sliding it on. Always just turning back in that loop like a barn door to keep the shape. And voila. And here we have just the most wonderful, dangly, eye-catching earrings using this pipa knot, an ancient Chinese knot that is wonderful. You see it most in macrame and other crafts, but we can apply this to wire. Yes, we have to take a little more care and be more precise with the wire, but the outcome is just as gorgeous. Here's the one we just made that does not have an ear wire on it yet. Lovely. Update on the head pins. Actually, I've been learning some different terminology that you might know them better at as either the hair fork or the hair stick. I've been calling them a hair pin, so that might not be accurate. You know, each one of us has different vernacular depending on where we live in a country. So I think I might have been calling them the wrong thing. So they're hair forks and hair sticks. And I think I'm coming up with something to use the 14 gauge that I ordered, but I'm going to also order some 10 and 12 gauge. So if you have those on hand, be ready. I'm going to come up with something that we can work on for hair sticks and hair forks in the future. So I'm hoping you enjoyed these earrings. So much fun. So different and interesting, I felt. Hope you're successful. If you have any questions or you're struggling in an area, please leave your comments, your questions. I make sure to answer each and every one of them. And I appreciate you watching the whole video. I appreciate you liking and subscribing. And I'm looking forward to next week for Tutorial Tuesday.